Let's get this rolling. Let's welcome our first guest from the 33rd team and Philadelphia Magazine, Paul Domowitz. Domo, welcome back to Philly Pressbox Radio.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Paul, we're glad to be talking Eagles football again, so let's get right to it. Bottom line, the Birds began the season with a W. That is what it's all about. And while he wasn't perfect, and some people think he ran too much, Jalen Hurts did a lot of good things. What is your take on what Hurts was able to do in the opening game?
Yeah, I agree, Chad. I mean, he had a solid game. The running is always going to be a part of what he brings to a game. Maybe not 17 carries. But I mean, anybody that thinks, that he shouldn't be running doesn't understand how important that is to his makeup. He's improved since last year. You saw some of that improvement. You saw him not get stuck for sacks. He apparently seems to have learned how to kind of a two-handed basketball chest pass on running to his left when he needs to throw the ball away. So. But him and A.J. Brown have clearly developed instant chemistry. Devonta Smith wasn't a big factor on Sunday, but I think that's going to change. I mean, he'll distribute that ball around. So, we're not looking at Justin Herbert here. You got to take little baby steps with Jalen. But what he might not have yet as a passer, he certainly has as a runner.
And Paul, do you see, as this all plays out, I think with this wide receiver core, and once Devontae Smith is in the mix and they start getting man coverages and things like that, Jalen's going to run the football. I think it's a positive. I think it's a weapon for this offense, while many people don't want to see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a lot of RPOs on Sunday. That helps the running game as well as the passing game. A lot of slants to A.J. Brown. It's nothing but he's built like a fullback. So, I mean, this is a guy that, he's not going to take a lot of punishment. He knows when to get down. He took a hard shot on Sunday that was a cheap shot, and, the guy was flagged for targeting. But for the most part, he's not going to take a big pounding. And that's, so I have no problems with the running. Like I said, and like you said, it's a big part of his game.
Well, let's talk more about A.J. Brown. We certainly saw what he can do. How good is he?
Very good. He's kind of a combination of, he can go vertical as he showed on that one catch, but he's so big and strong. I mean, he can get 50-50 balls. He can out-muscle cornerbacks and safeties. And like I said, he and Jalen have such great chemistry. At one point early after they signed him, I wasn't sure, because of the fact that they, with him and Devontae, they wasn't sure how the targets were going to be split up. But, this is a guy that's probably going to catch 75, 80 balls this year.
And what did you think about the play of Miles Sanders? He 90-plus yards rushing. It looked like at times the offensive line was struggling a little bit in pass protection, which Jalen helped with that with his runs. But running the football, if you're going to get 90-plus yards from your number one back, is usually a pretty good day.
Yeah, that 26-yard run late in the game probably was the difference between a win and a loss. He didn't make a first down on that play. They're giving the ball back to Detroit, and the way their defense was playing at that point, I'm not sure they would have stopped Detroit. So that was huge. Keeping it away from them. I think that the RPOs and Jalen's threat as a runner kind of opened things up between the tackles from Miles on a lot of those runs, the nice holes. But he's got one of the best lines in the league blocking for him. So yeah, that was a good start for him. They didn't overwork him. I think he ended up with 13 carries, which is pretty much what you're going to see from him. This isn't going to be a workhorse back. They've got Kenny Gainwell. They've got Boston Scott. So, I think they're going to use them all.
Hey, on the defensive side of the ball, just one sack, and that came after a bobbled snap, and not as much pressure as we would like to have seen from the new defensive line. Hassan Reddick didn't really do a whole lot. Is that a concern?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can say anything's a concern after one game, but it was not what you wanted to see. I mean, the tackles did not. I mean, the only tackle that played well was the rookie Jordan Davis, and he was only on the field 22 snaps. The two starters, Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, both played, subpar. You don't like that. Fletcher Cox, I know he's on the downside, but you still expected more from him. I mean, he was getting single blocked on Sunday, and the Lions were having no trouble blocking him with single block. That, back in the day, that just didn't happen. I mean, he would win those matchups. So, they're bringing Brandon Graham along slowly. He didn't play a lot of snaps either. But, one sack, 13 pressures is not what you need from that group. It contributed to, why Jared Goff had such a good second half and why they were having trouble. So, I mean, that's got to improve, whether they blitz more, whether they move people around. I think certainly we're going to see Jordan Davis play more snaps as we go along here. I'm not exactly sure why he only played 22, whether I mean, he's in good shape. I mean, for a 340-pound guy, it wasn't, they were playing indoors, so that wasn't it. Maybe they just want to bring him along slowly. Nakobe Dean, their other rookie, only played, I believe, 3-4 snaps. And, that needs to change because TJ Edwards can't be on the field, for 100% of your defensive snaps. That started to show up in the second half. So, yeah, to answer your question, they need better pressure than they got on Sunday.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. I think in this league, you're not covering too many guys one-on-one if you're not pressuring the quarterback. Somebody's going to get open. It's just the way it is. DBs are out there on an island. I'd expect this week the game plan changes with a lot more pressure.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to give Kirk Cousins a lot of time to throw to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I mean, he'll just rip them apart.
Hey, Paul, Bill and I last week, along with your former colleague, Boop, Bob Vitrone Jr., made our season predictions. Bill and Boop both said 12-5 for the Eagles. I went 11-6. Did you make a prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's going to be 11 or 12, but, I'm optimistic right now. I think if they stay healthy, 12-5 certainly is reasonable. I mean, I look at their schedule. And, I think they can be 8-2 after 10 games. They need to be no worse than 7-3 because of most of the tough games come, later on in the season this year as opposed to last year. So, but I think 12-5 is very doable, especially in light of, what we're seeing happen in Dallas with injuries.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, I wanted to ask you about you've been covering Eagles football for a long time, and the Philly faithful and their quarterbacks. There are all kinds of bad things being said about Jalen Hurts prior to the season and after week one. But these are the same fans that didn't like Donovan McNabb or Randall Cunningham or anybody else except Nick Foles. What is it with Eagles fans and their quarterbacks?
You always like the guy that's not out there. Jalen's, I think maybe because he's a little bit unorthodox as far as the running, not as accomplished yet as a passer. That's probably contributes to why some people don't like him. But, I mean, there's just so much to like about this kid beyond what he does on the field. I mean, he's a natural leader. He's kind of the locker room inspiration for these guys. I mean, they followed him since the first game they threw him out there as a starter for Carson Wentz back in 2020 when he was a rookie. So, I don't hear a lot of negative stuff. You guys probably hear more of it than I do. I mean, I think, I think this town is going to, if they would go deep into the playoffs this year, this town's going to love this guy. If they don't, well,
next man up.
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, he's not guaranteed anything after this year. He has to play well or they'll go look for another quarterback next year.
Well, let's talk about the Vikings who come to Philly Monday night. They're coached by Kevin O'Connell. We're actually going to be talking to his dad, Bill, in the second half of our show. They have maybe the best receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson. Former Eagles linebacker Jordan Hicks is there now. He had a real good debut with the Vikings, 9 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. The line's only 2 points in favor of the Eagles. I got to be honest, I'm a little worried about this game. What's your take on the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough game. Minnesota is a very good team. Kevin O'Connell, I mean, I know the Rams hated to lose him. I mean, he was a valuable offensive coach. I think he's brought a lot to this team. I think they needed I mean, Zimmer was a terrific defensive coach, but I mean, I think they needed to look for an offensive coach, and they've got a good one. It's going to be hard to stop Thielen and Jefferson. I'm going to be interested to see how Gannon does it. And clearly it's going to start with the pressure like we talked about earlier. So this is not going to be, it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah. And to Chet's point, Jefferson might not even be the best receiver on his team.
Yeah.
Thielen's pretty darn good. So the Eagles will have their hands full, and they better put pressure on that quarterback or they are going to get picked apart, I'm afraid.
And they've got to put Cousins doesn't throw interceptions. He's got one of the lowest interception percentages in the league over the last 5-6 years. With Jefferson, he's been so good on third down. He led the league last year in third down receptions. So they've got to put the Vikings in a lot of third and longs and hope that, they can cover them long enough to let the pressure get there.
We didn't mention the other acclaimed receiver, Jalen Reagor, that they have. He played, I think, 4 snaps in the opening game, all of them on special teams. He had 1 punt return for 7 yards. Do you think they're going to throw him out there at all on offense against his former team?
I don't know how much he knows yet. Maybe he's familiar with a few packages. They're not going to sacrifice snaps with Jefferson and Thielen just to put Reagor out there against his old team. I mean, they need him they need him as a return guy. That'll pretty much be it, probably.
But to jump over in the NFC, obviously it's just one game. But do you make anything of a pretty nice game from Carson Wentz, a real nice game from Saquon Barkley, and really bad things happening in Dallas?
Yeah, we'll start with Dallas. Losing the left tackle first was tough because they're such a left tackle dependent offense, and they were going to have to either put a rookie out there or Jason Peters. They ended up going with the rookie, the first round rookie, who did okay. But the crusher was losing Dak Prescott for a still to be determined number of games. My guess is it ends up being 5 or 6, and that's going to kill them. They have no backup. Cooper Rush is not going to do much for them, their running game is not what it was back in the day. So I don't think they can lean heavily on that. So they're in trouble. Washington. Carson Wentz. The good Carson prevailed over the bad Carson on Sunday. He had the 2 interceptions early in the fourth quarter that almost killed him. But then comes back and has 2 fourth quarter interceptions or touchdowns that end up winning the game. So, I think that the real Carson is somewhere in between the 2020 Carson that we remember before he left, and the one from 2017 when he was almost the league MVP. Somewhere in the middle is what he really is. I think that's a good thing for Washington. I think he's going to make them a better team. Whether they're ready to contend for the division, I'm not sure. Same with the Giants. I've always been higher on Daniel Jones than a lot of people, and now they've got Saquon healthy. I like the coaching change they made and the GM change. I just don't know if they're ready this year. So, I think this is. The division is the Eagles to win right now if they don't screw it up.